Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsyreplays. Welcome back to the channel. Today we have another top 5 episode. Now, this is an episode that I've actually wanted to do for a while, and in fact, there's only one thing that stopped me doing this episode of the top 5, and I just forgot. And someone sort of said something, and it reminded me, oh yeah, that's what I was going to do. So I literally wanted to record the footage as quick as I can so I didn't forget again. So yeah, bad Meadsy. So what we're looking at today is the top 5 tier 9 tanks that are better than the tier 10 version. And again, as I always say in my top 5s, guys, this is my opinion. You will probably have different opinions to me, and someone else will have a different opinion to you. That is just how life goes, and this is just my top 5, and I'm pretty confident you will agree with at least 3 of them. So first up, we have the standard B. I honestly prefer this tank over the Progetto, and mainly because of the speed. The gun is much better, and more importantly for me is that HE pen. It has very, very high HE pen, and in fact, his Royal Fatness did a stream with the Progetto Lion, and he also thinks the same thing. So if Fatness thinks it, it must be true. It must be true. So the standard B is the first tank in tier 9 that I prefer over the tier 10 version. Next up, we have just one of the best tanks in the game at the moment, and actually one of the most played tanks in the game at the moment, and that is the Waffle. Stat-wise, the grill is better than the Waffle. It has better pen, has better accuracy, it has better speed. But overall, the gameplay, the play style, I think the Waffle, and many other people thinks the Waffle is much, much better than the grill. It's just such an amazing tank. Like, it has the speed, it has the gun, it has the hull that the grill doesn't have. So you can't bounce, but you can actually stop people from shooting HE at your hull. You really only have the turret. Certain sections of the hull, yeah, of course. But I just think with the gun depression as well, I just think the Waffle is such a good tank, and it could easily go into tier 10. All of these tanks could go into tier 10. Now, next one is the Centurion 7-1. Now, again, I've always loved the FV4202, always loved it. One of my favourite tanks in the game. But if you look at the tank itself and the gun, etc., the Centurion 7-1 is actually better than the FV because it basically has the same gun. It is a tier below, and on top of that, it actually has a turret. And when you come up against tier 8s with your juicy Hesh, you can really deal a big amount of damage in very, very little time using that Hesh, because you can do upwards of just over 500 damage per shot. Now, the only thing that I don't really like about the Centurion is that speed. But I mean, if you give this speed, then this tank would actually be broken. So it is well balanced because of that speed. It's a big tank. You can't really expect it to go 60 plus kilometers per hour. But it's a juicy tank. It really is a nice tank as long as you know how to use the Hesh. And that is why I do actually prefer this tank. And again, a lot of people agree with me. I think Bushka is the same. I think he prefers this over the FV as well. There are a few people that does. I know Skate Extreme does, which he's not playing at the moment, but I know he is one as well. Next up, we have the T30. Now, this is a tank that I always constantly say is better than the T110E4. The T110E4 is actually quite a disappointing tank going by looking at this tank. I mean, the E4, compare that to the E3, is just really, really, really weak. Now, also compare the E4 to the T30. I mean, you could swap this with the E4 any day. You can easily swap this with the E4. Now, the difference between the E4 and the E3 is the E4 and the T30 is the T30 actually has a very, very lovely turret. It has gun depression, and using that gun depression with your turret, you can actually bounce shots. You compare this turret to the E4, it's just so much different. The E4 just has that massive hatch. You get rid of the hatch or you upgrade the hatch like the E3, then of course the E4 would be a fantastic tank. That is all the E4 needs, is just buff the hatch. Just buff the hatch and it will be a fantastic tank. Now the last tank on the list is the E75. Now this one could be a little bit controversial, but honestly I think the E75 is one of the best tier 9s in the game. It's one of the strongest and it really does perform well in battle, especially when you are top tier. If you're up against tier 8s, this literally is one of the best tanks in the game. Now when you're up against tier 10, you can easily cope with tier 10. You could deal with tier 10s very easily. Now the difference between the E75 and the E100, the E100 of course has that bigger gun. It has a really big gun, but it's just got so much weak points on the turret, on the bottom of the hull, and it's very different to the E75. The E75 of course does have that the bottom of the hull quite weak. I mean, you angle it and it does become really strong, but it doesn't have the cheeks that the E100 has got. I mean, you switch to Pramo, then yeah, you can penetrate the cheeks on this thing, but they are so much smaller and they're a bit more angled than the E100. I mean, the E100 is just got flat all over it, and because of that, it just makes it so easy to penetrate the E100. So if you are grinding up any of these lines, I definitely recommend all the tanks that I've shown in this video. Don't gold, just go and enjoy them, go and play them, grind it out fully. No need to use free XP. I mean, of course, use free XP to get the top modules on the tier 9s, but don't use the free XP to get the tier 10. Don't rush it, because these tanks perform much better than the tier 10 versions, and they are really fun tanks to play. Of course, there are a few other tanks in tier 9. I mean, for me, tier 9 is the best tier in the game. That's where I think the most strongest tanks are. And again, they all stand up to tier 10s, but you actually see tier 8s, which makes the big difference, which is why I love playing tier 9. When you play tier 10, you are constantly seeing tier 9, and that is it. It does sometimes maybe get a bit dull, where tier 9s, you don't even care if you're bottom tier. When I'm in an E75 or something like that, I don't even care if I'm the only tier 9 up against tier 10s, because I know that the tank can perform, especially in this tank or the T30 and the Waffle as well. There's loads of tanks in tier 9 that just performs better than the tier 10 version. You have a tank over there which is the VK45. It's kind of been left behind, but it's still a fantastic tank played correctly. So definitely don't gold the lines, don't use free XP. Just go play the tanks, have fun playing these tanks, because they are all beautiful tanks that perform really well, and they are fun tanks to play. So let me know your top 5 tanks in the comments below. Which tier 9 tank would you like to see replaced from their tier 10? Let me know in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I'm meadsyre69, and I will catch you all soon. Bye bye.